Welcome back, guys. This is Charlese Presents, and I'm your host, Charlese. And tonight we actually have joining us it's going to be two gentlemen this evening. So we are going to be discussing some topics, wide range of topics, actually, with more of a focus on health, mental and physical health. So tonight I have with me Derek and Mr. Antonio Honesty. Those guys will be helping us along with the recording this evening. How are you guys tonight?
I'm good.
Doing all right, doing all right. I'm out the heat finally, so I'm good.
Out of the
Yeah,
I well, I will go ahead and say, as Derek already knows, I always like to go for my full transparency here. So I will go ahead and say I will not be seeing the heat for about another 10 days of the quarantine that
oh
I'm
man, you lucky.
so 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 yeah, y'all will have to tell me all about the heat because I'm gonna be stuck inside my room apparently. But I'm not mad. It could be worse. So now,
I'm hoping
how
I can quarantine from work this week in the heat and be in the AC.
Let's see, y'all lucky. Y'all can quarantine from the heat and be away from work. If I quarantine, because I work from
you're
home.
still at work? You're still at work,
You're
right?
right. Work is never done. Work is never done.
He's like, yes, I got the day off from. I'm still home.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
they lied to me, said I was essential. So
I think we all were essential. It was just so funny. I even got that little plastic card, and for a moment, I felt like somebody. I was like, "Oh snap! Look at me!" Then I realized, nah, they just want you to be the one to go to work. So it's like, okay, y'all got me this time. But hopefully, hopefully there's some end in sight for all of this that's going on because it's definitely been taking a toll on everyone in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's one of the things that we will definitely be discussing this evening is the mass trauma or mass stress that this can definitely have on men, specifically on men. So if you guys would like to give us some information on how the current events have been affecting you guys.
This whole situation, it's been kind of a strain because like you're so used to being able to just get up, go out to work, get your hours, be able to come at home, pay bills, make sure everything's good. Kids got what they need. But with the current situations now, with everything being shut down, it is putting a strain on you because you're now trying to figure out, will I be able to work enough hours to be able to, handle the certain essential things I need done, like, my bills being paid. So it is a bit stressful right now.
It is, yeah, it definitely is. So your employment has been affected, directly affected because of the COVID.
Yes, my employment was affected because of the COVID. I was working at a restaurant, and due
Oh man.
to the restaurant business being slow and me being salary, my money was just a little bit. My salary was just a little bit too much for the business, so they didn't want to work with me on terms of me, restructuring a contract with them. So to save the business money, they had to let me go. Which me
Oh
being a
wow.
father, me being a father of 4 boys, I still have responsibility. So, I job searching, I job searching, I job searching. Yes, the job that I did find did put me at a dramatically lower pay rate, but I have to do what I have to do because of my son.
Oh man. Now it's definitely an eye opener because I think you're one of the only uh males that I've actually spoken with that's been affected in that way. I know a lot of places like at the outlet, those stores shut down or they cut the hours. So that was affecting a lot of people, but not to the degree that you just described. But I'm glad to know that you've got something, even though it's not quite where you were. You're probably in a better position than some other people out there, which I know that doesn't make it any easier for you.
Yeah.
But when these things happen, and I guess this is probably one of the biggest questions that I've had, when things like this happen with men, how do you guys handle this? Because you guys are looked at as the head. you guys are looked at as like, we don't see you guys as, we can cry, we can call our girlfriends and cry, call our mom the whole us and all this stuff, but what do men do when things like this happens? How do you guys handle that stress?
Uh, I think what we do is we internalize and move on, because you're right.
Amen.
We don't cry. We don't say, I don't be like, yo, Antonio, man, I'm feeling really emotional today because of things going on. Because it's something that we just don't do, because it's not manly. So we strap it on, put it on our shoulders, and keep it moving.
And
Because
to his
one,
point, that's absolutely that's absolutely the truth. Because we really don't look at it like that. Because when the situation happens, we know what happens. But then we go into this other mechanism, this other motive. I just got to do what I got to do, and we wake up, we say that every single day until we make something happen. So we're not the ones that just sit there and to like internally go through it. We just quickly try to figure out solutions on how can we make it better, like right now.
Oh my goodness. So this is never a so there's never a an older male or even just a peer that is going through the same thing that you're going through. You guys never stop and have those conversations?
No, not really,
the
because we
Oh
nope.
my
we
goodness.
being men. I mean, we being men. We came up under the stigma of like whatever it is that is bothering us is for us to handle. We weren't taught to talk to somebody about it. That wasn't like the type of teaching that I got. Coming up coming up as a young man, I was taught to just gotta fight. You gotta deal with it. That's
You
how I
gotta
was taught to
man up
deal with
about
it.
it.
Yeah,
Uh, oh
Well, the thing
man.
about it too, to add to that, is like, yeah, you weren't. It's not even a situation, because I won't say that was raised up to not deal with emotions, but it was just, you look at the world from your viewpoint. In my viewpoint, my father he was a military man. He got up every day, put on the jump boots, put on that flight suit, and he took care of business. He took care of home, took care of the family. There was no room for that emotional, I can't handle this. And that's the kind of the view. And then when you look at not some just your father figure, but you look at the other men in your life, you didn't see no men reaching out to other men talking about, hey, dog, I'm having a rough time. Or, it was like, look, let's just make it happen. Do what you got to do. You
exactly.
hold them feelings on the inside. You deal with that on your own time. For
Oh wow.
24/7 though, this is our time. This is your time to work, take care of the kids, and that's it.
Exactly.
So although it's not common, it's not the norm for men to actually do this, is there ever excuse me, is there ever a desire for that at all? And even if not now, like at some point in time in your lives, have you not gotten to a point where the world just became too heavy on your shoulders that you did want that comfort, or you did want that release of saying, venting to someone, or even, and I hate to keep saying crying, but we relate that to, that's an emotional release. But has there never even been a moment where you stopped and said, even though it's not what you're going to go on the basketball court and do, but has there not even just been a desire for that to happen, to have that conversation with someone in hopes that they would understand where you're coming from, or they can comfort you through what it is that you're going through?
I've been through several moments where I've been at for me it was 2 years ago. The loss of my grandmother, because she was the lady who raised me. She was the lady who raised me, and I am the reason why I am the man I am today. But that was the most vulnerable time in my life. That was the only time that I could actually really shed a tear amongst male and female and not be judged for me shedding a tear. It was the most rewarding time because I was able to get a hurt off. But that was the most vulnerable time for me. And I think with a lot of us, it has to be at the most vulnerable times in your life when it doesn't really have to be that way. But to me, that's the only time I see it happens is when I'm in a vulnerable position. or situation like the loss of my grandmother or the loss of my friend. Those are the times when that is ignited out of me.
So
So
those are the
my
times when it's
thing,
okay to do because that's more acceptable by society. It's like you just lost a loved one, so it's okay for you to cry.
It's okay for me.
Hmm.
I believe that it is. I believe that is the only true way that we as human beings will be able to stay healthy at all. For one, because all of those things on us is just a lot of pressure and stress, which leads to high blood pressure, which leads to other bad things down the road. So I think that crying is not a bad thing because that is a mechanism that we have within our bodies. It's an emotion. So it's a release. So I don't think that this should be a problem with it. I personally thought at one time that a man shouldn't cry, but I've learned that that was just a lie.
and it's a really fucked up lie. I mean, there's no other way I can explain it. And I hate the fact that we've gone through generations of just being men and not being able to sit back and deal with stuff. Because my whole thing was, my most recent time was like back in November, going through a tough time, and what I've noticed is a buildup. It's a buildup of feelings, emotions, stresses, everything that goes on in the world. But once again, you're looked upon as the leader, the man. You take care of things, you handle things, and then it would just get to that boiling point. And yeah, you have that feeling that you want to reach out to console. You want to reach out and find somebody to talk to, but it's always that fear in the back of your mind that how they're going to look upon you. They're going to look at you as being less strong, weak. You're crying. You're crying over something. It's like in Tony, you said before your grandmother passed. That would be acceptable because it's like, okay, that's the woman that raised you. That's a family member. It's okay to cry at that moment. But then any other moment, that's like getting dropping a hammer on your toe. You ain't gonna cry over that. But then when you going through things and you feel like I want to talk to somebody, but the moment you feel like that you release that first tear, or you start whining and you just feel like that feeling coming out, they're gonna let you like, look at this punk right here. He can't handle
Exactly.
his own life.
And
Yeah.
and that's how and that is exactly how they view you. And to me that is the most saddest thing because at the same time it not only makes the situation that much worse, but it's that sickening to even think that you would even take it that far as to, laugh at someone who is at a time, if he's crying, therefore there's something emotionally going on there to make a mockery of
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. What is it that we, as your friends or your partners, your cousins, your sisters, your aunts, what is it that we can do to help our men to be more comfortable with being vulnerable, with it not requiring a passing or the death of a loved one? Is there anything that we could do to make this easier for you guys? Because what I hear is that you guys have used the words like build up and release. So we all know that causes stress. And we all know that stress on your body is going to start to cause physical issues, health issues. What can we do to help along the way so that this is no longer normal, this is no longer acceptable, that it's okay for you to come through that door and you need to be held or you need a hug or you may just need a moment to yourself? What can we do to make you guys more comfortable with being able to make that the new norm?
it. Good
Let
question.
go of the judgment. Let go of the judgment. That's you know, and that's a hard part right there because it's one thing from a man, but from a woman, women do this. It's like, okay, so women view us the same way. It's like if a man is having that moment, and how many times we done seen it too? That is just men in general, but even in the black community. How many times have you seen a black woman say, "Hey, look at that man, look like," and just call him, call it like it is, call him a punk ass, call him a bitch because he seems weak because he's having a trouble. Let that go. Just as everybody else have their issues, we men have those same issues. and be able to come at it as, look, I'm not here to judge you. I just see, and I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to fix. I'm here to live.
You know what? And it's crazy. It's crazy you said that because just to elaborate on it and just be in parallel to that same thought that you had is because I went through a situation like that somewhat, I want to say 3, 4 years ago, where, I met this young lady or whatnot, and we were talking, but then all of a sudden, through talking, I was called, "Oh, you look like a bump bump." And I'm like, "Well, what does a bump bump look like?" You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you want me to be? Who do you want me to be? Because I don't know what narrative of a man you want. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy that you said that because that makes absolute sense. Because of the judgmental thought within their minds, man. Like, it's crazy.
Oh
So,
wow.
I got a question for you, Charlese. What is your definition of manhood or being a man?
Uh, I can tell you it definitely has changed. It has definitely changed from um what I first thought it was. I always thought my dad was the poster child for greatness, great man, uncle, son, everything. And what I saw was an overworked, overstressed man, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, probably not getting home after 7 at night. And he always had a smile on his face. Didn't matter what was going on. And to me, that was a great man. And then I started to get older, as I got older, and I mimicked him in a lot of ways, working from sun up to sundown and holding things in and just wanting to be there. And I started to realize the stress and the weight that the world around you can carry. And so now for me, I'm looking at it a little bit differently. Like that man that's for manhood to be real and open and honest. When you're hurting, say you hurt. When you're tired, say you're tired. Because although you're a man, you're still human. And as a black woman, I can relate to a lot of what it is that you guys are saying, but we still, in a way, we still kind of get a greater break than what you guys do because we are women. But we're looked at as the strong female. Uh, and we're never, we were brought up too. We don't go home and cry to our man because he had a hard day. He had a rough day. He don't want to hear about this. So, a lot of things we held in. We used to look at manhood and a strong man and him manning up of him being overworked and overstressed and quiet about it all. But now I want to know that you're happy. I want to know that you're at peace. And to me, that's the new look that I would like to see for manhood, regardless of the ethnicity, your race. Being able to actually go home or be able to pick up the phone and call a peer, a brother, or somebody and say, "Hey man, I had a rough day. I need to talk about it." Like that's what I would like to see now. And that is for me my new definition of it. Just being able to be human, regardless of your sex, just being able to be human. And humans, we get overworked and we get overstressed. And we need people. I don't want, I'm single, but I don't want to that man that I do meet to be bombarded with all those things from the past that he hasn't been able to let go. So, it's such an eye opener now listening to you guys because you have your own perspectives of it from the back seat in a sense. But hearing you guys say this is just kind of like, wow, it's almost a tearjerker because it's what's happening, but to hear you guys say it's almost heartbreaking because you have people there, and I think that's the worst, to be surrounded by so many people, but then still to feel like you can't reach out to these people as you need to. And I've been in that situation, but it's to hear someone actually live their life like that or expect it. Like you guys sound like you've just already accepted. Like I cannot cry. I cannot talk to you about my feelings. I can't do any. And at least for me, I feel as if I just have to find that right person. But for you guys, it just sounds like that's just not a part of the agenda. I can't do that.
And yeah, in a sense, I mean, just to even elaborate back onto, the question that you asked, and you was like, what can the woman do? And I think for me, what is most important is, if we're living together and we're in a relationship. I understand that, you've had your day and I've had my day, but if I'm out and I'm out and about and I'm working and I'm providing for the family, when I come home, it wouldn't hurt, for to be asked how was my day without me having to hear about what your girlfriend said or what this person said. Just for me to know that I'm being asked how my day was the minute I walk into the door, it already uplifts a bad day off me, for one. For two, it helps me to navigate away from that negative energy that I was feeling all day.
Yeah.
Long as she can start to ask those things, then the healing process within myself can begin, because I can open up now, because I'm like being greeted by the woman who I say I love and who I'm in this relationship with.
That's so true. And that's something that I've heard a lot of guys say that they may have taken that step and a woman kind of kicks them 10 feet away, because as soon as an argument ensues, they're throwing it back in their face. And, I think that's one thing that uh, biggest thing we have to learn is just communication, because when we're not necessarily broken, but when we're coming to you from that place that we don't let anybody else into, the last thing we need is that to be thrown back in our face, because then that definitely is going to shut that door. That definitely. So I mean, and what you're asking and what you're saying is simple. I mean, if that's the minimal that your woman or your sister or anyone should be able to give to you, just asking that question and genuinely sitting there and listening. That's
But and that's
that's
the
a
part too.
lot.
It's the listening and the non-judgment. Not,
Yeah.
I need, especially for that woman that I feel like is my ace, my ride or die, my whatever. I need to understand that she, one, is not going to sit here and judge me. If I'm because it's hard enough for a man to get, if we're having a rough time or whatever the case may be, and we're going through. First, it's hard enough for us to even admit it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the hardest things I ever had to do was get on the phone and speak to a woman who, for better length of term, didn't know me from a can of paint, and have that woman listen to me bawl my eyes out like I was a 2 week old baby, and for her to listen to me and not judge,
Oh
and just say,
man.
you know what, and for her to come out and say, look, I don't know what's going on, but two things: one, I'm here, and two, I'm not judging you. So
And
that's
not
kind of
to
the key
interject
point.
on you, but that's going to be my word for the day, Derek. Judgment. That's gonna be my new word for the day. Judgment. I love that
Well,
word. Every time you say it, it actually fits to the narrative to the T. Is because it always boils down to judgment.
that makes so
You're
much
right.
sense. Yeah.
My thing when it comes to that is I let people know off the rip, whether you were friends, or I'm trying to be in a relationship with a woman, whatever the case may be. And I get a feeling that's why a lot of people do talk to me and come open up to me, because look, my job on this earth, that title of Derek Seeley, didn't have nothing that says that I'm able to judge you on what you do. I leave that for the man above. Now,
Mm-hmm.
once you get to the gates and you have to go through that list of things that you did not do, questionable, that's when that's time for judgment. For me, I'm just a dude with an open ear and hoping that we can get through the day. That's it.
Exactly. Exactly. Not living in the false narrative, not living in the way society says that we do it, not living in the way that your fantasy world has it, but me living in the way of me knowing how to be Antonio, and you living in the way of you being knowing how to be who you are. We're not conforming to the world. The world has to conform to us. And until we get that thinking going on, we're gonna always be subjugated to this kind of stuff, because we're always following the process of what they say is the way it should be or how it should be. I don't want to go that way. That's the old brainwashing method that you have on that kind of terminology. until we
Mhm.
learn to get back to loving us and loving who we are, and we get back to us, actually being a man and actually being a woman. I think we're gonna always have these problems. They get better, they go away, but then they tend to surface back every so
Mhm.
other generation. And I think that's where the disconnect is because there has not been enough teaching, and especially coming from my generation, there hasn't been enough teaching. There hasn't been enough guidance. There hasn't been enough men that were productive, and there wasn't enough men that were, actually out here trying to do positive things that was around me during that time, because either one, they were locked up, or two, dead. I had to learn on my own. I had to learn what my grandmother taught me and try to apply those skills. But had I had that older gentleman that could actually really talk to me, then there would be a lot of, you could see a lot of the differences. You could see a lot of the 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 stress that we go through nowadays. You can see a lot of that no longer in a lot of us. You can see a lot of us that aren't with gray hair. You can see a lot of us that aren't going bald because we would have already addressed that. We've already been taught that. So now I'm saying that even with today, with like Derek himself and myself, what are we gonna do about the ones that's coming up under us? We're gonna have to light that
Right.
torch. We're gonna have to teach them. We're gonna have to teach them and show them that men's health is really important, because if we're not healthy, we can't be there for our families, and if we can't be there for our families, they're gonna fall short.
Right. And let me piggyback off of what you just said. Men's health. Um, is it common for you guys to go for a physical or a checkup? Not even speaking on a therapist or a psychiatrist, because I know we just don't do that in the Black community. But
You
anything
better pray
from the
on it.
head,
Yeah,
from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, do you guys go to doctors? Do you guys keep appointments, make appointments, other than the dentist?
I have now started doing that. I've done it because I've looked at myself and I said to myself that I have sons and I have to be and it starts with me doing the things that I need for myself. So I noticed like certain little small things that I wasn't doing, like the doctor visits and stuff, for me to actually find out what was going on, what was hindering me from doing a lot of these physical sports with my kids. But now once I go to the doctors and I find out, okay, boom, I got this. Now I'm getting fixed. I'm getting fixed. I then acknowledge the importance of going to see a doctor because our health is important. It is
Hmm.
vital. It's important.
So, would you say what you were the way that, because you say you just recently started making the doctor visits, would you say that it did not seem vital to you in the beginning? Mainly, like you were saying before about having that older gentleman there. Is it more because you didn't see it happen, that you didn't think it was necessary?
It was more of thinking in the old way of I'm too tough for that. I don't need to go to the doctor. I don't need to get checked. I'll be all right. It was just that thinking.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, because I sort of not necessarily tease, but my my older friends, male friends, I always tell them that the first time it seems like they ever been to the doctor was when they went to find out they had the gout. Every male that I know that he when he goes to the doctor, he's finding out that he has the gout. I don't care who it is, when it is.
I ate too much
Anytime I ever,
seafood, man. Yeah, I need to stay away from
yeah,
that seafood.
that's what it
and
is. What we
that
used to
love
say,
meat,
eating
that's
too
what it
much
is.
rich food.
I eat too much crab legs all his life.
But that would always be the first time that I would hear of a Black man going to the doctor. It would always be, oh, my foot hurts. I know I got that gout. And sure as heck, 2, 3 hours later, they're coming back from the doctor, and that's exactly what it is. And it's like, so you don't go to the doctor? I never had a reason to. And I'm like, but you take your car to get
Well,
oil changes and all this stuff. Like, why would you not think your body needs the same? So I just
well,
never
to speak
understood
on
that.
that, to give you some kind of some intro thought on that, I had a conversation with my father a long time ago. I don't even know how in the world we got on a conversation about going to the doctor. He said, "Son, don't be that man that doesn't go to the doctor until his dick stops working." And that dawned on me. And it was like, you know what? He's right. Because the thing about it, as a man, a lot of our what our bravado is tied into our dicks. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be the first time you say gout. A lot of times, most guys, if that stop working, that's the end of their damn world. If you tell a dude that he ain't gonna be able to get it up anymore or can't get in a motel,
Oh, he's going
he's
to the
over.
doctor, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
he
that's
just
when
goes to
that's
the
when he
doctor.
that's when he's definitely in the doctor's office trying to find out every medication to make it work.
Yeah, he trying to get that blue pill because he need to get back out there. And my father said,
Oh, so
Don't
he
be,
trying to be in that Matrix world now.
yeah, he said, don't
He
be
needs
that
that little
man.
blue pill.
Yeah, don't be that man. And I was like, whoa. And so a while, I mean, it didn't dawn on me until after a while when, my own health struggle was here it is. I'm a man, I'm working, taking care of the wife, the kids. And I had always got teased about having diabetes because I would fall out at the drop of a dime, just go to sleep.
Oh
My
man.
thing, this is what it was. This is what it truly was. It was hot. These old people got the air conditioning that can cool 15,000 houses, and it's 100 degrees outside, but they won't turn the air conditioner off. And my defense mechanism for getting hot is
Eat.
passing out. Yeah. Because I figure if I go to sleep long enough, when I wake up, it's going to be cool again, or at least it's going to be nighttime.
Did
So
that
So you
ever
gotta
I,
happen?
see, like the old folks say, you gotta get that monkey off your back.
yeah. But see, the thing was, their version of the monkey and our version of the monkey were two different things.
Yeah, because their
They
version,
live with that.
you can actually see the steam coming off of the highway hot.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I had been teased about that, and then one day I'm sitting here working. Like I said, I had not too long lost one job. I'm trying to take care of my family. I'm working another job, and I'm thirsty, and my eyes are playing tricks on me. So for like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm thirsty. I'm spending like $10 in the soda machines every day at work. And I
Wow.
went to go to work one day, and I told my mom, I said, "Look, Mom, I'm dizzy and I can barely see." Now, my mom, my aunts, all these people have diabetes and whatever. They were like, "Well, let me just check your sugar." My sugar was so high, the machine couldn't ever read it.
Oh
So they took
wow.
me to the nurse room. I got put in the ICU, and that was kind of like an eye opener right there. It's like for the longest, and this kind of goes back to just being a man because I'm strong. I got to take care of my family. No, I'm not going to go to the doctor. Yeah, I'm hurting a little bit, but and even the thought of when there was a hint that could have prevented this a long time ago, even in the department of the manhood situation, because diabetes affects that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, man, girl, the thread off the comforter got wrapped around my thing while we were doing it, and that's what happened. And
That's what happened.
it was an excuse for everything until the
Mm.
doctor said, "Look, I'm gonna put it to you plainly. You was on your way out the door."
Oh
And when
man.
you in ICU and they putting you on insulin after insulin after insulin and trying to bring it down for a day or two, trying to get into a controllable level, granted that stopped me. It started me on my path of going to the doctor on a regular basis. Now, had it been a perfect path, no. But that point right there made me realize that look, in order for me to be around for my 3 kids, even though yes, they have given me my gray hair, I'm not blaming it on age whatsoever, but it started me on that path of look, I need to make sure that I'm good. That makes you, and it leads just to now that, now that I got insurance, which I've had insurance, but now you really appreciate insurance now.
Yeah.
Let there be a tickle in my throat that don't feel right.
And just to add in on that, man, and that's crazy, man, because you find out about things like that when you do eventually go to the doctor. I literally, it was in 2015. Luckily I was at my mom's house, but yeah, I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling good or whatnot. And I normally don't never go to the doctor. They be like, why you don't go to the doctor? But anyways, make a long story short, she came into the room because she hadn't heard me. She hadn't heard anything from me for a little bit, but she came in the room. She came and got me. She was like, "What's wrong with you? Why do you look like that?" And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just don't feel good. I got a headache, whatever. But they knew something wasn't right just by looking in my eye.
Oh,
So
wow.
they took me to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, the doctor said, had I had come 5 minutes later, I would have had a massive stroke.
Oh,
That
my
is how
goodness.
high my blood pressure was. And from that day is when I knew and was diagnosed with high blood pressure. But I could have known that long time ago had I had gone to get myself checked. And
Yeah.
that's just how scary the situation can be, is because you don't know if you don't go. And if you don't go, you won't know that you even have it. And you could be to a point in your life where it is at its most critical highest because you don't know anything about it. And you be gone just like that. And no one knows why.
So you guys, both of you guys have some health issues that you're working through. Does this make your agenda to make sure your sons and daughters, your children, are more proactive with their health?
Of
Like, are
course.
you
Of course.
okay?
Of course. I wake up every morning. Every morning I wake up and I know I got to take this medicine. I make it known that if you don't want to be like this, you go ahead and get yourself checked out. Because you see me having to wake up every morning and pop this pill for blood pressure and pop this pill for my bad acid reflux. If you don't want this to happen, get yourself checked now. You know, I stay on them. But then I'm also able to stay on them because I'm following these doctor's orders.
Yeah.
I I am keeping my health in check by doing the various things, and that is important. And not only that, but to not just go with what the doctor say, but and yes, I am promoting black businesses everywhere, but it is
Of course.
for you to actually go and see your see your local herbist. Your local herbist
Hmm.
knows everything about these herbs. You know,
Yeah.
just because the doctor says you can take this and be better, do some research. You already now have been diagnosed with this. You already
Yeah.
know what the prognosis is, but you don't have to take the diagnosis. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to take the drugs that they give. But if you study now that you know what it is, you study, you do your research, and you go to your local herbist because they know about the herbs. They know what the herbs do. That's what they study. And I think that's one of the ways of going to promoting black businesses as well as staying healthy too.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely correct. So, do you substitute any of your medications, or have you with the herbs instead of the prescriptions?
With my blood pressure medicine, I now incorporate pickle juice into my diet. Like, 3 times a day I'll take me a pickle juice shot. Every 4 hours I'll take a pickle juice shot, and just the vinegar itself with the little bit of garlic that's in it helps to control the blood pressure. Garlic is one known as one of the best things to help with controlling blood
Mm-hmm.
pressure. But then also the pickle juice itself kind of helps me with my acid reflux as well, because I can feel my acid reflux is flaring up. My chest just lights on fire. It's like a fizz pop, and I know it's
Okay.
coming. So those are things that I do to help combat with that throughout the day on the natural side of things.
Give you all power in the world for taking that shot of pickle juice or apple cider vinegar. I mean, if it helps, I can't knock it, but I know maybe
Can't
I
do
took
it
it
up.
wrong or something. That thing had my throat feel like I done chewed on swallowed barbed wire or something. Oh,
Uh,
Jesus.
Now, you guys, having both being young black men, um, how has the because I know mental illness is not something that we grew up. Well, at least I could say for myself, grew up and that was the white people disease. That's the white people problems. We don't deal with things like that. But I have to imagine after everything that has been happening, especially more so recently over the last few months here with COVID, as well as the constant murdering of innocent or even probably not so innocent uh, Black people the stress of seeing someone that looks just like you be gunned down or murdered, and that murderer never sees a day in jail or even a trial. Um, how is that when you're dealing with things that are on a more of a national level, like the racism or like the COVID? Is that something that you guys are able to be more vocal about with one another versus any individual or personal uh, stress or issues that you may have? Is it easier for you guys to converse about the current events and kind of vent on those things?
I think
Uh,
that's a good question.
it's been 50-50 for me. Because no, it's no, I don't hide it. I've battled um, chronic depression, anxiety for the better part of my adult life. So being able to talk about is one thing, in a reference to just having a bad experience or just living life. But now, with it being so pronounced, that it's more of an anxiety issue, because more or less it's not perceived. It's not perceived that, or it's not imagined that this is going on. This is actual factual, that you're seeing people
Mm-hmm.
that look, feel, and go there about their days just like you.
Uh-huh.
And at any moment in time, and when I say this, it's really any moment in time, whether we're laying in our beds, where we're walking the dog, where we're chilling with our kids, taking a drive, at any moment in time, it's that feeling, that anxiety, that I know that somebody could kill me, take my life, and the
Exactly.
narrative would be, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And as of late, I mean, if my anxiety levels have been off the charts, because it's just because I got this whole COVID thing too with us. Okay, so you're telling me I got to wear a mask. Now, granted, I'm
Mm.
gonna take a little bit heat off of it, just because sometimes I know I'm a jackass, and I will do things just because. I went out and bought my damn mask from Amazon that pretty much covers up my whole damn face. Why? Hey, it's whatever. But just the
Comes up to
fact.
you.
Well, I mean, I did want one. I ain't gonna lie, I did want one that was kind of fashionable, because the surgical mask ain't me. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing about it is, going to the gas station and having a sheriff deputy look at me
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it's like, okay, so I'm wearing this mask, but I'm guarantee you, if my skin color was different, wearing the same mask, you would not look at me the same way.
Yeah.
And the
No, I get
anxiety of having young black sons and having to deal with, at any point in time, that I may get that same phone call, and this is the hardest reality I've had to come to face with, because I have a son right now that is being just the knucklehead of knuckleheads,
it.
and
Mm-hmm.
waiting for that phone call and say, Mr. Seeley, hey, I'm sorry to tell you that your son is passed,
Yeah.
and having to defend that narrative, as far as, this was my son before you pulled that trigger, this was my son, and all
Yeah.
that weighing in on just every day, just trying to make a living, just trying to go out and have a life. It's on the high street. I'll say that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Everything that's going on. My take right now is everybody's stress level is through the roof right now with all of this senseless killing of unarmed black people, whether they done it, the wrong, or whether it was, like, hey, why did you kill this person? It's unjustified. It's straight up ridiculous. It's being painted on television, and little kids are watching it. Little kids are seeing this. Little kids are seeing us getting gunned down and killed dramatically in these streets, like at a crazy rate. And I
Right.
think that it really needs to be handled. Someone actually really, from the Pentagon, from wherever it needs to come, from the relations, someone needs to look into this and actually really give a damn about it, because obviously no one cares, and these police officers are still doing the same thing. They're getting over, they're getting away with it. I just saw on TV the other day George Zimmerman signing packs of Skittles.
I saw that. I saw
I mean, my major thing when it comes to the mental health is, especially when it comes to African American men, we have issues. I mean, especially given the climate of the world, don't let the world view of you stop you from getting help. Like I said, I had to make that phone call. I've made many a phone call before. I've had many issues of trying to reach out for help, but those have always been a little bit on the private side. This
Mm-hmm.
one was like I had to reach out and just, and I often seem like embarrass myself, but it wasn't embarrassing because that same person on the other end said, you know, that is the strongest form of strength is form that you know you have an issue and reaching out for help.
You
So
definitely agree.
for our young black folk, especially young black men, I mean, reach out, make that phone call. To somebody. I mean, and as much as the issues that are going on with the government, I do have to applaud one thing. Some people may have seen it on my Facebook post where they're making that 3-digit call, that 3-digit number,
Yes.
like
Yes.
911.
Mm-hmm.
Because I ain't gonna lie to you, I've been down that road where you feel like your mind is not in the best of places. I can't remember that prevention hotline. I'd be done called, Tammy's good time and trying to tell her what's going on, and she talking about 2 cents a minute. You know, and not
Now,
to make
and
light of it, but we need we need that number.
yeah, it does make it yeah, because I did share it. I did see it on your Facebook page and I did share it as well because I can tell you it was kind of jaw dropping for me because having never actually needed it or used it, I have reposted other or shared links of the number or any way to be able to contact. Even like with Facebook, there's a way that you can contact uh, a Facebook employee in regards to suicidal thoughts, or if you see something on someone's page in relation to them wanting to commit suicide. But I never paid attention to the fact that this wasn't already a 3-digit number. So when I saw you post it, I was kind of like more or less in shock because I was like, oh my goodness, like I just, I don't know, I guess just thinking along the lines of an emergency number, I just immediately thought that it was always a 3-digit number. So, so that's definitely because that, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the last thing I need to be doing is fumbling for a number at a time like that. That just adds to the moment and not in a good way.
Well, I just want to touch on one thing too, as far as just special with the most recent events,
Uh-huh.
and this is directly for us black folk, and it does. I feel like it does to people who are passed away a discredit because whenever somebody, a black person, a black man is hanging, and I know the history, I know the visuals of it, a black man hanging from a tree.
Mm,
I
mm-hmm.
know the visual, we know it, but every single time I'm not trying to, dissuade or whatever, but every time it's not a lynching. And the
That's
reason why I
true.
say that because we we never think that our brothers, our uncles, our fathers would ever commit suicide. It's like they didn't
You're
have
right.
suicide tendencies, but the problem with that is, and just I'm an open book. As a person who has had those thoughts and just went to that line before, you would have never known it. You would
Yeah.
have never known it until you would have found me. So please, we need to get that notion out of our heads that just because he hung himself, oh, this is a lynching, or there's no way in the world that he could have killed himself. You don't know what was going through that man's mind.
Yeah, and I've
Find
I've
out the
seen
truth
that.
first.
Yeah, and I think it's something where we have to I've kind of sort of over the last couple of years kind of seen a little mix of both where it's kind of like we came from black people being immune to mental illness till now I can see on the younger generations social platforms where everything is a trigger for them or they're self-diagnosing themselves. So it's kind of now it's kind of like where they're getting that they have the knowledge of these things, but it's it's where they're more or less self-diagnosing themselves. So it just makes me wonder if there's behind the scenes, are you getting help for this? Because at one time we weren't talking about it and we sure as hell weren't claiming it. And then now I'm seeing very young children posting things about, okay, this is a trigger post or or I'm depressed today. And it's like, okay, we're beginning to have these conversations, but my concern is just always now what's happening when you log off of Facebook. Do you have a therapist? Do you have a psychiatrist? Does your parents know that you feel this way? Is this an actual diagnosis and you're being treated for this? Or is this just a Facebook post? So it's kind of like we're definitely moving the needle. It seems like it's now being talked about. I just definitely hope that beyond the talking, that there are some actions that's there. And, I have to thank you so much for being able to say that you've made those phone calls or you've been down that road, because someone's going to hear this and know that it's okay, and know that it's okay for me to pick up this phone and either dial this hotline or reach out to a friend or a family member, because it's not just them. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces, especially when it comes to men. They don't want to be the first one to do it. You don't want to break code. You don't want to, ruin that stigma that has been attached to you guys for so long. But I can tell you, as someone that has always been referred to as a strong Black woman, that the strongest thing is admitting that you need help. The strongest thing is admitting, like, I can't do this shit anymore, or I can't do this right now. That's the strongest step that you're ever going to take. And I think that's one of the biggest messages that I want to get across to men and women alike, Black, white, purple, yellow, or green, is that when you're tired, stop. Like, you don't have to keep doing this, and be a listening ear, a non-judgmental listening ear when that male figure in your life does come to you and they need to vent, or they just need that release. You guys need that just as much as what we do. So I definitely thank you for being able to be so transparent and an open book and put that out there, because I know that has to be, that's nothing easy to do. But I thank you so much for that.
I mean, it's one of the things too that I've come to grasp with. Like, look, how can I best benefit people in the same situation? I can sit here and post, links to several different resources. I can do this and I do that. But the best resources I can provide for somebody that's going through that dark time in their life and they don't have nobody that they feel like they can reach out to is share my experience.
Absolutely correct. Well, I personally want to thank you, Derek, for always being my listening ear, because I know sometimes your girl has some issues. So I definitely want to thank you for being there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for however many years now. So I personally want to thank you for that, as well as for allowing our listeners to know that there is someone that's just like them, and seeing you now here years later. So there's no reason to give up. There's never a reason to stop. You have resources and you have outlets available to you. We will be posting those along with this podcast, as well as on the website charlesepresents.com. So those guys will have a way to be able to reach out, and if in the event that they do need to utilize that new number or just need a friend to talk to, we have different forums set up. I'm pretty sure myself as well as Derek is always open to anyone inboxing us if it's a question or you just need to vent, get something off of your chest, because we can't resolve any issues in this world alone. We really have to do it together. So I want to thank Derek as well as Antonio Honesty for being our guest this evening. And once again, my name is Charlese, and this is Charlese Presents. And you guys have yourself a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you're recording. Sorry, it sounds like you're underwater now. So I can't, I don't know what happened. You started to sound like, I can't even know what it sounds like. It sounds like Mickey Mouse and SpongeBob had a baby. I don't know what happened. It's really weird. But I'm going to see how it comes out on that end, and then I'll send it to you. And then, see, like, I don't know what that is. I have no clue what that is. But I'm going to go ahead and edit it, and then I'll send it to you. You can let me know what you think, sir.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you. Hey guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's actually one of the easiest ways to make a podcast. The best part about it, it's absolutely free. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So I sat down a few years ago to write my first novel, The Bricks That Built She. This story was supposed to be my release, my tell-all in hopes of recovery, not just for myself, but for many others as well. I thought after 40 plus years I was finally ready and able to cross that bridge, but I just couldn't. Instead of writing a tell-all, I wrote a loosely based true story on the childhood trauma and abuse that I suffered. I wasn't ready to face the truth. To know that for more than half of my life I protected my abusers and my molesters. To know that the things that I was taught and shown as a child still negatively impacted me to this day. The foundation that was laid for me and for many others was a shaky one at best. I believe that those that had a hand in raising us did so to the best of their ability with the tools and knowledge that they had. I don't feel that there was ever any ill will or intent when we were told what happens in this house stays in this house, or any of the other isms we were given growing up. Understand we were being raised by people that for the most part were raised by slaves or those still with a slave mentality. They were taught to protect their oppressors, and in turn, they taught us the same. Now, I am in no way assuming that no other race or ethnicity endured the same, but I can only speak from my perspective as a black woman. A black woman that slowly learned over the years that being strong was probably the weakest thing I could have ever done. Being strong came in many forms. It was looking the other way when you were mistreated or wronged, adjusting to unfavorable situations and conditions. Being strong was staying in relationships for the kids or on dead-end jobs because it paid the bills. Being strong became fighting back tears and not acknowledging my fears. Being strong became readjusting my life and dreams for everyone around me but me. Only the strong survived, and as the years passed, it no longer felt like surviving. The moments and events that required me to be strong were never ones that I was proud of, never anything I wanted to share with my friends or family. My strength to endure less than situations, toxic relationships, and friendships with my enemies was now wearing me down. I had carried with me stories of unacknowledged hurt and pain. But I wasn't bleeding and I was still breathing, so I thought I was fine. Then one day back in 2016, after weeks of lewd comments, remarks, and requests, my supervisor complimented me on my strength. See, Charlese, that's why I like you. You aren't like those other girls walking around here like they can't take a joke, right? I just nodded and smiled. Little did he know inside I was shaking, slowly becoming unraveled after all those years of being strong. We're friends, right? We're cool. He would often ask, giving me a fist bump. And that was all it took. All it took was for me to show my strength and comfort in what he was saying for things to quickly escalate from words to actions. Actions that dug so deep that for the first time in 40 plus years, I could no longer find the strength I needed to block out what was happening. I could no longer find the strength I needed to adjust to unfavorable situations. I could no longer catch a hold of the strength I once had to make me believe I was right where I wanted to be. For the first time in my life, I either couldn't or just wouldn't be strong by my society's definition. I started to cry day in and day out. I laid on my floor from day to day, not even realizing night turning into day and day turning into night. I didn't want to die, but I no longer wanted to live. I no longer wanted to live the life where being a strong black woman left me draped in shame and fear. So one day I'm at work and an elderly lady came on my line. Her voice was so peaceful and so inviting. She was calling in because her mobile hotspot was not working. She asked me to hold as she walked away to retrieve her device. I smiled as I heard her putting up a gentle fight to unplug the equipment. In that moment, for no reason known to me, I just began to sweat. My heart started racing and my hands began to tremble. I wanted nothing else but to breathe as it felt like there was an elephant on my chest. I still don't remember the walk to the car. I don't remember grabbing my keys. All I can remember is my face being soaked and wet with tears and sweat. Then I started to scream and scream and scream and scream. I didn't recall the ride home. I can only remember waking up that next morning and how I tried to sneak to the bathroom without my daughter seeing my face. Even though I had broken down inside, I felt my exterior, I had to keep it intact. I'm a strong black woman and I need to get myself together. I remember staring at my phone and scrolling, trying to find someone in my call list that I could call just to have someone to talk to. All my calls and messages, they were all met with the same response. Girl, just pray. You're a strong black woman. At this point, I began to cringe just about any time I heard that phrase. This was a title that was to be looked upon as a badge of honor, when no other man, woman, race, or ethnicity is expected to be strong. There were no strong white woman t shirts. No one was giving shout outs to white men for being strong. We were the proverbial mule, and the more you can load onto our backs and we don't buckle, the better a mule we were. Being a strong black woman is why society as a whole lacks empathy for us. Our tears will never be worth the same as any other race of woman because we got this. Every black man needs a strong black woman, and regardless of how she's treated, loved, or cared for, she still remains. She keeps his secrets, she cleans up his messes, she ignores the love her heart is aching for because, as a strong black woman, you just don't leave. You take that, you take what you have, and you just make it work. Because as a strong black woman, you're never taught how to leave, just how to fix it. I'd reached a point where I was no longer able to fix it. I was 41 years old in an abusive relationship that I kept trying to fix. I was being sexually harassed by my supervisor 5 days a week at a job I hated. I had an ex-husband that was just diagnosed with leukemia. On top of the family and friends calling with their issues, and right in the middle of it all, I had 3 daughters to raise. I refused to give them what was given to me. I refused to continue to bow in and give in and call it being strong. I refused to continue to keep secrets of those that needed to be told. But who do you talk to? Who do you unload a lifetime of hurt and secrets to? In a community where mental illness belonged only to white people and abuse of any kind was taboo, who do you talk to? Who do you tell? Where do you go for help? As a child growing up, it didn't matter the question, the answer was always going to be God. There is nothing and no one greater than Him. I've heard this my entire life by those closest to me. So when the decision to see a psychiatrist was made, it became yet another secret I was keeping. I felt I was betraying my religion and my God. I was taught to put it in His hands, not a $300 an hour French psychiatrist. Not knowing for certain, one can only assume the reason or reasons we as black people feel as if we are immune to mental illness. The diagnosis was never an option, a psychiatrist was never the answer. I've often felt that our faith is supposed to be so deeply rooted that we are to believe no man or woman walking this earth can or will ever help to heal us. So we sweep it under the rug and we carry on, completely ignoring the damage it has caused because we've prayed and we've left it in the hands of the Lord. We never even entertain the idea that He may have created someone here in the flesh to care for our minds the same way He did for our bodies. Ever hear a complete and accurate definition given of mental illness by a person of color? That's just how far we've withdrawn from the idea that this could affect black people. I was a child that slept maybe 3 or 4 hours a night, and no one thought this to be odd. I started waking up at 3:33 a.m. just about every morning. Slowly, I became the person you called when you could not sleep because she'll be awake. It wasn't until 2017 I was diagnosed with insomnia. I had never heard the word before, and honestly, I had no clue that my sleep patterns were wrecking my body inside and out. Why didn't we not search out for help or look for a better option? Were we thought to be just that strong that we would never need healing? We know that tires wear down on a car. We understand that batteries will go dead, but us? We just keep going and going. To even consider the idea you would be shunned. Oh, you're white now? has to be the most detrimental blow to a person of color's mental health. Or maybe we do not acknowledge mental illness in the Black community because then we would have to acknowledge all those things that got us there: the abuse and neglect, the isms that were just an easy way out, the slave mentality that we held on to because it was all we knew. The idea that we needed to be fixed was admitting we were broken. We prayed and left it in God's hands, and once we learned to live with it and ignore the scars of the trauma that we've been subjected to for generation after generation, we called it being healed. When the truth is, we've only learned to cope. This mentality is repeated and passed down generation after generation. We take these generational curses and throw a name like tradition on it, and we think that makes it okay. Mental illness has been proven to be hereditary. And if you know your history, you know that someone that branches off from your family tree has suffered. Have we never stopped to think about the mental and emotional trauma and abuse endured by those that were beaten, raped, sold, and made to watch their family hung from a tree? These same people produce people that were not able to even drink from a faucet because of the color of their skin. Those people, they raised me. They raised you. A generation that knew to keep whatever happened in the house in the house. A generation that was told, shh, stop making all that noise. You see them white people coming? We are now raising a generation of men we have to give instructions to on how to deal with the police officers just so you can return home alive. A generation that has seen more of their peers murdered before they graduate high school than we have our entire lives. But we don't believe in mental illness. We are the poster child for mental illness. Many of us could have been saved and can still be saved if we just admit that we need to be. But again, we can't, or we feel we shouldn't, because now we have to point fingers and name names. Why do all that when we can just pray and put it in God's hands? Not only does this slave mentality apply to white people, but anyone that sought to oppress us. The reason we teach our little girls to be quiet when touched inappropriately. It's what makes you pretend that you don't even hear her when she tells you that it hurts. It's the reason we never tell the next female, be careful, he hits women. We are the only race of people systematically trained to protect our oppressors, whether they're black or white. So I sent an email to my assistant director and made him aware that I needed to speak with him. He was only one level up from me, but that ride there felt like a lifetime. I wanted nothing more than to disappear in that moment, but I knew there was no more hiding, no more being silent. I felt I had been interrogated almost my entire life. From the time someone touched me inappropriately, I was asked, well, what were you doing to make him do that? I was a child, and in my child's mind, I literally questioned myself. What was I doing? I would always be told of how good of a man this person was and what would happen if his family found out. Do you want to make his wife and kids sad? Do you want him to lose his job? This was my foundation, shaky at best. So anytime anything inappropriate was said or done, I would question myself. I questioned myself then and even now. I didn't feel I had the right to tell on him. I felt I wasn't innocent enough to be a victim. I had made some choices and decisions in my life that weren't always the best. I felt by society's standards, I pretty much needed to be a virgin in order to make these accusations. I had once confided in my then boyfriend of a sexual attack that occurred when I was younger. He told me I wanted to be raped. He even went as far as to send me screenshots of a news clipping of a recent rape where his Facebook friend said she wanted to be raped. This is someone that not only said he loved me, but he asked to marry me. If he felt this way about me, then what will these complete strangers think? My hands were drenched in sweat. That feeling you get when you've done something wrong took over me. I thought for sure I would break down right there. My composure and my demeanor were a dead giveaway, my AD later told me. I went to my desk, gathered my belongings, and headed for the exit. On my way out, I passed my supervisor. In his hands, he carried a book titled The Power of a Praying Husband. Oh, what the irony. On November 10th, 2017, I marked a year of seeing a psychiatrist. I was being treated for depression, severe insomnia, and PTSD. I suffered with panic attacks and night terrors. I share this information from a place of strength and confidence. I share this information because I know I am not alone, and I need you to know that you're not alone. Therapy or a psychiatrist may not be for everyone, but healing in any form is encouraged to all. I am currently living the third best year of my life, as I choose to call it. I still have some hurdles to cross, but for the most part, I can say that I am genuinely happy and I am at peace. Thank you guys so much for joining us again. I believe this is episode number 4. And we want to thank you guys for joining us this evening. It was a little bit different. I initially set out to do the blog that I titled Stronger Me. I was just going to give a little bit of commentary on that blog this evening. But then after recording with these guys, or first before the recording and just talking with them, I began to realize the similarities between referring to women, black women, as a strong black woman and telling our black men to man up. The similarities are there. That impact is the same. It's always that feeling of not being able to make a choice or a decision that we want to make is what society expects of us. And one of the key words used this evening by both of the gentlemen were judgment. And that judgment carries a lot of weight, regardless if it's in the workplace or with your friends or your family. And we really, truly just need to kind of let that go and allow people to be themselves, allow them to be who they are. Mental illness is real. Mental illness happens regardless of your economic status, regardless of your profession, and definitely regardless of your race or your ethnicity. I'm going to be including on our website, charlespresents.com, as well as on any platform that we're on. You're going to see the 3-digit number that Derek and I spoke about towards the end of the podcast, as well as there will be other resources for anyone that is seeking help for themselves or for a loved one. We definitely want to make sure that we're all in this together and we're doing everything it is within our power to make sure that any man, woman, or child is comfortable and they're safe and they're confident when they're in our presence. We want to make sure that there's no more strong black women that we're raising to do things that they do not want to do. We want to stop telling our men to man up just because they have emotions that they need to show or they need to display the hurt that they're feeling. Again, my name is Charlese, and I want to thank Antonio Honesty and Derek for joining us again this evening. Again, my name is Charlese. Have yourself a wonderful evening, and we hope to meet you back here soon. Thanks.